Hardly anyone talks about this specific poker skill, but once I got my head around it, my poker winnings started to go up significantly. And I'm going to teach you in this video how you could do the same exact thing. In fact, I'm going to share with you an easy 4-step checklist so that you stop leaving money on the poker table. And if you implement the system correctly, there is basically no way that your win rate won't go up in the long run. It is nothing super fancy, everyone can learn this fairly easily, but especially in live poker, I rarely see anyone do this. So let's jump right into it. Before I tell you exactly what it is and what you should do, let's just quickly look at a hand. Say someone open raises on the button and you call in the big blind with ace-4 of spades. The flop comes jack of clubs, 6 of spades and 3 of hearts. You check to the aggressor, he c-bets small. What would you do in this spot? Take a moment and be really honest with yourself. Would you fold because you have nothing? Or would you call because you have ace high, which might be good or you might improve? Or would you raise because the opponent has a lot of air in their c-betting range? Okay, neither of the three options is a big blunder. If we look at the GTO output, it mainly raises with this hand, but it also mixes some calls. Folding would be a mistake, but only a really small one. The expected value lost would be a quarter of a big blind, so hardly worth sweating over. And if your opponent is on the tighter side, then a fold might actually become a viable play. So why am I showing you all this if there is hardly a difference between all the options? Well, because I bet that most of the time you will not choose the check raise in this spot. It feels unnatural because you're probably thinking,
well, I don't represent much when I raise.
And you're not alone. The vast majority of players will play passively in this situation. And whilst that is not a mistake, it does not maximize your winnings. If you don't routinely check raise and no limit hold them, then you are leaving money on the table. According to GTO solvers, you should check raise around 20% of the time as the preflop caller. Do you think you get anywhere near that frequency? I bet you don't. So let's explore how to check raise both as a bluff and for value. Normally, I start with what I would do with my value and then I think how to incorporate my bluffs. But in this case, I would like to do it the other way around, and you will see the reason later. There are some players who c-bet way too much and won't defend to check raises enough. Against these players, you can pretty much check raise whatever you want. But against competent players, you need to have a framework in place. There are very easy and natural bluff raises like flush draws, open-ended straight draws, and even gut shots. I think that a lot of players will find those, so we're not going to talk much about them. I'm more interested in the creative check raises on dry boards like our Jack 6-3 Rainbow, where there are no natural bluffs because there are no flush draws and very few straight draws. So here is my framework that has worked very well over the last few years and is quite close to what the solver suggests. Whenever I'm in a situation where I could check raise as a bluff, I go through the following checklist. 1. Is the c-bet small? If the preflop aggressor bets 2/3 pot or more, then I will have to tread a lot more carefully. 2. Do I have a backdoor flush draw? In our example of the Jack 6-3 board, we have ace-4 of spades, so yes, we do have a backdoor flush draw. 3. Do I have a backdoor straight draw? Yes, a 5 and a deuce or a 5 and a 7 would give us a straight, so we can tick that one as well. 4. Do we have an overcard to the highest card on the board? Yes, we have an ace, which is obviously higher than a jack, right? I look for at least 3 of these conditions to be met if I check raise lightly. If, for example, we don't have an overcard to the highest card on the flop, then I might still check raise. But if I don't have a backdoor flush draw either, then I will normally not do it unless I know that the opponent c-bets too much and overfolds to check raises. In our Jack 6-3 example, all 4 conditions are met, so this would be a very easy one to go for it. And what size should we raise to? Solvers use different sizes, but I think we can simplify this and make it around 4.5 times the size of the c-bet. So if he bets 2 into a pot of 6, then we make it 9. This means that we are risking 9 to win 8. So if we can get him to fold 60% of the time, we already have an auto profit situation. And if he calls, we can still draw out on him if we hit our backdoors or maybe an ace. If he c-bets 2/3 and we still decide to check raise, then we will have to go a bit smaller with our raise. 3.5 times the c-bet size is enough in that case. We have talked about what bluffs to use. Now, against weak players, this is enough of a consideration. But if you are up against better players, you will have to put more thought into this. You could choose the right bluff candidate and the right sizing, but if you mess up the next thing I'm going to share with you, it is going to destroy the success of this play. So earlier I said that I wanted to find my bluffs to check raise with, so now we have to balance this out with some value raises. At small stakes, and especially at live poker, we don't have to be super balanced, but against semi-competent opponents, we can't just be totally unbalanced. This means that we do have to find some value check raises. The first ones that come to mind are the sets of 3s and 6s, obviously. We probably don't have a set of jacks because we would have 3-bet jacks pre-flop. We shouldn't have jack 6, 6-3 or even jack 3 either, not even the suited variants. But note that in a tournament we would have all of them because we would defend every suited combo in the big blind. This means that we could check raise as a bluff even more. Sets of 3s and 6s are not enough, so we have to find other value raises. Any idea what these could be? Good jacks, something like ace-jack or king-jack. A lot of players would feel uncomfortable to raise these because the opponent might have an overpair or better. And yes, I get that. I feel uncomfortable to do it as well at times. You will potentially have to navigate your way through a bigger pot with just one pair. But don't be afraid of it before it even happens. He might just fold, or he will call with pocket 7s and won't just start trying to barrel you off with his medium strength hand. So have the courage and check raise good top pairs. Okay, we have established on what kind of boards to find these creative bluffs. But are there any boards where we should be more careful? Yes, absolutely. And one of them is not what you might expect. But first, one where you would expect it is something like ace-king-4 rainbow. The in-position raiser is supposed to c-bet big on this one, and he has all the big hands. We can't check raise good top pairs for value because we don't have any. We would have 3-bet ace-queen pre-flop at least some of the time. We do have some 2-pair, but we only have one set, the 4s, because we would probably have c-bet aces and kings. Hopefully. This doesn't mean that we can't check raise at all, but we have to be a lot more selective with our bluffs. I would only check raise something like queen jack with a backdoor flush draw or 5-3 with a backdoor flush draw. Okay, and what is the unintuitive type of board where we shouldn't check raise light? A board that is particularly good for us as the big blind. Something like 7-4-3 rainbow.
But Andreas, shouldn't this be exactly the board we want to check raise because we have an advantage?
Well, no. A competent opponent should realize that 7-4-3 is a much better board for us as the big blind. This means that he should decrease his c-betting frequency a lot in the first place. So if he still decides to c-bet, it means that he has a much stronger range, in theory at least. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have any bluffs, but the bluff to value ratio should be lower on such a board for him. Obviously, if your opponent is a weak live player who just c-bets every time he raises pre-flop, by all means, then punish him and check raise with queen jack on that board because he will probably have to fold way too much. But against competent opponents, be mindful on these flops. And if you want to see the key to improving your win rate, then I recommend you watch this video here.